Hey guys, welcome to our next music sheets where we are talking about the one, the only Princess of Pop, Miss Britney Spears. Now, this video is going to come out before my reading vlog, but I did start listening to this while reading her memoir, which will be in my December reading vlog at the end of the month. But obviously she is incredibly iconic, and usually I do not listen to my music sheets the same time as reading, just because one has to take more mental processing than the other of whatever I'm reviewing. But when it's something where the music also is so important, I was able to make it work. But I mean, obviously Britney is one of the most influential artists within all of pop music, and also has had one of the worst lives of any entertainer out there, especially considering how much work she has put in. Reading the memoir was really interesting. Definitely recommend it, especially when taking in context her music. But let's get into the actual music of it. So obviously her first album is Baby One More Time, the Deluxe version. The standout songs are Baby One More Time, which obviously is probably her most iconic song. I mean, You Drive Me Crazy, and I Will Still Love You was one that I particularly liked too. But I mean, overall, you have a lot of the very 90s pop within this. You have a lot of the younger sounds in there as well, considering her age. It was definitely an interesting album. Because Britney, you can definitely tell the progression of genre shift within pop as well, and also when she stopped having control of the artistic direction. But yeah, overall, Baby One More Time, I gave 132 out of 160, which is an 82.5000 or 83 or B in total. It was definitely cute. It was not my favorite, but definitely a good start to her career, obviously. So her second album is Oops, I Did It Again, in which the standouts for me were Oops, I Did It Again, Stronger, What You See Is What You Get, Don't Go Knocking on My Door, and those were the ones that I gave 10s. So, I mean, obviously Oops and Stronger are the singles that pretty much everyone knows, but you have a lot of the same feel as the first album, just a little bit more mature and just a little bit stronger overall, pun not intended. But you see more of her direction as an artist and more secure in that as the pop star that she is now, you know? So I gave this 102 out of 120, which is an 85 flat, which is a B. So, Britney Deluxe is her third album, in which the 10s I gave were I'm a Slave for You, Overprotected, Boys, and that's it. But, which are the singles for the most part, but they both stand a lot. I think Overprotective is interesting. One of the things she mentioned in her memoir was, while she felt like that when the song came out, she knew nothing of what it truly meant compared to what happened later in life, which is really sad. But honestly, Team is obviously incredibly iconic, and then Voice just has such a cool vibe to it, such a cool feel. There's a lot of influences in it that you can definitely tell that she gives credit to, unlike certain people. But overall, it's a fun album. I gave it 129 out of 150, which is an 86 flat, which is also a B. So he's slowly getting better, keeps going up a little bit. The fourth album is In the Zone, in which has some iconic hits like Me Against the Music, Breathe on Me, Toxic, and Outrageous, which are all very iconic as well. Overall, I give this 108 out of 130, which is an 83.0769, which is 83, which is a B. This is what it lived downhill. And I do think it's interesting too, because apparently her label didn't like Me Against the Music until they got Madonna on it, which is interesting because Madonna's my least favorite part of that song, no shade. But like, it's such a good song though. It's such a vibe, and the music video is so good. So like, I don't understand. I don't know where they were at. Now we get the point where I get on my little soapbox of one of the greatest pop albums to ever be made. That is her 5th album, Blackout. Now, Blackout is the birth of all of the garbage in her life within 2007, and she made one of the best pop albums to ever exist that have influenced so many other albums to come from it. And you know, when I've just been giving like a couple 10s within her other stuff, quite literally everything but like 2 songs is a 10, and those are 9s and 8s. So let's get into it. Give Me More, Piece of Me, Radar, Break the Ice, Heaven on Earth, Get Naked, Freak Show, Toy Soldier, Hot as Ice, Ooh Baby, Perfect Lover, Get Back, and Everybody. In which Why Should I Be Sad gets a 9, and Give Me More, the remix, gets an 8. So Blackout is perfection. There's just, every song sounds uniquely different, and it's definitely different from the previous albums that we just talked about, where it's still very much that 90s pop. Blackout, I don't even feel like sounds like any other album out there. It's just very much its own thing. Even the albums we're gonna talk about sound like the time, but Blackout is just, it's just its own thing. It's just so good. And it's like, I don't know, it can be played in 100 years and still sound fresh. And I think that's also one of the crazy things. But I mean, you definitely see, and this is one of the albums she had the most creative liberty on, and you can tell because it's just the best one. But I mean, it's just so good. I mean, personal favorites in terms of singles, Give Me More, Break the Ice, Ooh Baby, Toy Soldier, Freak Show, all of them. All of them. It's just so good. So this got 147 out of 150, just a 98 flat, which is an A. So Blackout is that girl. She also mentioned that Blackout is her personal favorite album, the one that she's most proud of, and yeah, you can tell why, because it's just a phenomenal album. It's a phenomenal body of work. So, yeah, anyways, Blackout's where it's at. Her next album is Circus, Deluxe, in which she stopped having as much creative freedom, and it definitely sounds more like what we get into with 2000s pop as well. So 10s were Womanizer and Circus, and you do have Radar pop back up here. It's the same Radar from Blackout. Just got a second life. I'm not too sure why, but I'm not complaining because it's the best song on here. I love Circus too. Circus was the first Britney song I really listened to as a kid. But Radar is so good. But other than that, oh, and If You Seek Amy, I gave a 10 to. And that's a good, like, screw you song. But I don't know, you definitely have a lot less of just that creativity, just that drive of here is something really revolutionary, you know? And it's definitely playing more into the sounds that we started hearing in the early 2000s pop of just like, that aren't as good. So you have 123 out of 150, which is an 82 flat, which is a B. Which coming from that, 98. Ain't looking too hot, is it? Oh, we get into really rough territory now. The next one is from Fatale, Deluxe, in which the only 10 was Criminal. So that gives it 116 out of 160, which is a 72.5, which is a 73, which is a C. And that's rough. I don't think we've had C's on this channel before. We've had low B's for sure, but I don't think we've had a C. And it's because it's just very generic 2000s pop that has no drive to it. Criminal is the only one that really has any standout points to it. It's just really sad to see coming from the really iconic 90s pop hits from the earlier albums to Blackout, that's entirely its own incredible unique thing, to very generic music. The next album was Britney Jean Deluxe, and God, it's even worse. The only 10 I gave was Work Bitch, which obviously is very iconic. We love Work Bitch, but other than that, it's the same thing with Femme and Fatale. It's just very, very generic music. I think with Britney Jean too, you have a lot of more EDM-based music. A lot of like that same generic pop, just with a lot of electronic music. And don't get me wrong, we love a little bit of EDM, but it just doesn't work, which made this a 94 out of 140, which is a 62.2857, which is a 69 flat, which is a D. And the only thing good about that is that it's a funny number, because it's rough. And I want to give it more, because it's Britney, but I couldn't. It did not get there. Now, her most recent one was Glory Deluxe, which I gave a 10 for Do You Want to Come Over, and that was my only 10. But it does get better. So, she spoke about in her memoir being fairly proud of this album just because of what it took to create it. And it's definitely not as bad as the other two. I gave this an 183 out of 230, which is a 79.5652, which is an 80, which is a B. So, definitely not as good as the previous stuff, but also definitely not as bad as the last two, you know? You definitely can see a little bit more of that passion in there than the others, but that's where we come to. So, want to take a wild guess what my favorite album is? If you said Blackout, that is correct, because it is one of the best albums to ever exist. But in terms of my favorite songs, I'm partial to any of the Blackout songs, especially Ooh Baby and Give Me More, and all the other ones. In terms of not those, just the iconic hits, like Oops, I Did It Again will never not be iconic and not be great, you know? But, yeah, that's where we end it off. Again, check my December reading vlog video, because that will include The Woman in Me, her memoir, which was definitely an interesting read, so go hear my thoughts about that. But a lot of that information really applies to listening to her catalog as well, which made this a really interesting experience to have. But, yeah, I'm grateful for you guys for watching and being along for the ride. So I'll see you next time!